Hello, hi, my name is Frank Bush. I am a teacher at Henry Sinatchewan High School in Henry, Illinois. This is my 15th year of teaching high school here. I teach intro, which is a year-long course, prerequisite for advanced courses, and then students can choose advanced courses like painting and drawing, printmaking, sculpture, ceramics, and graphic design. And they can also take a dual credit art history course through the community college. The graphic design course I've kind of evolved into more of a concept and design course where it's more hands-on design versus the computer design. One of the culminating assignments of that course is to take a product and design an element for production. And what we have used over the last several years is a ukulele kit design that looks something like this. All of my students in this course are required to do sketches, just like any class. And what I do is I give them the option of they have to do at least 4 sketches prior to getting the kit to kind of formulate their design ideas. And I give them a front as well as a back template to use, and that is developed into at least 4 concepts. These are some student examples of concepts, front and back designs, and then we have a 4th one. These just happen to be from one student who is exceptional in their design concepts. And then once they have their design, they get their kit, and there is some pre-assembly requirements. The kits come in parts with a neck and a body that's pre-assembled, and a fretboard, the bridge, and then the tuners. These are geared tuners. I suggest if you have a choice, purchase the kits with the geared tuners. They stay tuned better. They have a little bit better quality sound than the pressure pegs that some of them come with. They come with the bridge nut, the nut, and the tuners, and some strings for assembly after the design is applied. The first thing they need to do is they need to sand some of the edges. Some of these are fairly ready to go, but they're a much better product if you can sand them. I suggest they sand them before assembling the neck. Use a little light sandpaper. Don't use real coarse sandpaper, or else you're going to actually add scratches to it. A really successful product is a sanding pad. It's like a foam pad with a sanding grit on it, and that forms around the edges a lot nicer, so you can get a nice smooth surface for painting, wood burning, for staining. However, applique. I've had students apply beads and gems, fake gems, to the surface. So the better your surface is for applying, the higher success you'll have. So the other thing that I suggest students do prior to getting everything ready to go is mark off where your bridge is going to go. This kit comes with pre-drilled holes for screws that will help hold it down. It's not necessary if you don't have the screw type. What I do is take rulers. After you put a little glue on the both wooden surfaces, you glue it down to the body, and then take a ruler and then a second ruler and a couple of rubber bands to apply some pressure on both sides. so that you can have that set up with some pressure on the glued surface. So once you have your rubber bands on there, you can readjust if it slips. If you're using the screws will help hold it in place while it's drying. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need to do that. So then you got your clamps, so to speak, holding it on. You don't need to have any special clamps. You can use rubber bands and that sort of thing. Some wood clamps are desirable for putting the fretboard on later. I use a couple of large handspring clamps. That usually works pretty well, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Before you apply the glue for your board and everything, if you're painting the whole thing, you're going to want to paint the entire thing prior to applying the bridge and the fretboard. You're going to have your students mark off a spot and mask it exactly where that goes. You'll make a line there, and you'll cut a piece of masking tape to go over that spot, as well as the area on the body all the way up the neck where the fretboard is going to go. So what I do is I kind of pre-assemble it just to see where it goes, and then measure where that's going to go, and then I mark around the edges, and then I will use masking tape to tape that surface there. And here's the reason why. When you're applying wood glue to wood surfaces, you want to have wood to wood contact. You don't want to have your fretboard and your nut being applied to a surface that has already been painted, because then it's not bonding to the wood, and with time, once those strings get attached and the pressure gets put on those strings, this can pop off. And I had a student do that. They said, "Oh no, I'm good. I think it'll stay," and went ahead and glued it onto the painted surface. Came back the next year and said, "Mr. Bush, can you help me fix it?" The bridge one day, when it was hanging on my wall in my room, just went whang, and so if you were near that could be dangerous. So what we did is we had to sand the surface on both of these again, and then reapply it wood to wood surface. So that's a real important step in woodworking. If you have some woodworking skills, you know about those kinds of things. But if you're not, you want to make sure the students are aware of those safety issues and construction issues. So I'm going to show you how to attach your neck to the body. Another thing that I purchased online are these industrial size rubber bands. They're huge. I bought them for holding together ceramic molds for slip casting, but this application works perfect for it as well. I purchased them in a bag of, I don't know, they were about 20 in a bag for maybe $10 or something like that online. If you search on Amazon or on the web, you'll be able to find those. So here's another tip. Want to make sure that you put glue on both surfaces of your ukulele. So what I do first is I do a little trial fit to make sure everything's going to line up properly, and then I will take a pencil and mark where that's going to be attached, so that I know where to apply the glue, because you're going to put a thin layer of wood glue on this surface and this surface. And I would highly recommend that you purchase a decent wood designed glue. Elmer's glue might work. It probably will work, but I would suggest that you use a good wood glue. I like Titebond. It's a type of glue, and what you want to do is apply a thin layer of glue onto that surface and a thin layer of glue onto this surface, and then I would put a little bit of glue inside the peg hole on the neck and a little glue on the inside of the peg hole on the body. Get a couple tissues or paper towels ready to go, and then you want to take your finger and just kind of spread that evenly all across that surface until you get a nice surface there, and then again on your body in that same spot that's going to be applied. You're going to get a little bit of excess coming out from the edges once you apply pressure, but that's okay. You can wipe that away. So then once you've got that on there and you have your pegs lined up, check it for that. Apply some pressure and get the excess that squeezes out right now if you can, and then take your industrial rubber band and put it behind the neck there, and that applies enough pressure to keep it in place while it dries. And if you see a gap in between the neck and the body, maybe apply a little bit of glue down in that gap to fill, and then wipe the excess off from your wood. Now the top is not as essential, but the side edges here, it's pretty important to get as much of the excess off as possible. And if you have a kit that has a single peg, you want to make sure it's lined up so it's not kilted or tilted or cantered there. And then wipe off the excess there. And then just set it face down so that it stays flat and level on a surface until it's dry. I require my students to wait at least one 24-hour class period, so they can't touch it until the next class period. If you have a block schedule, that would be a couple days maybe. If you do it on a Friday, you've got the whole weekend, and that's going to be a really solid bond once you're done. When you take the rubber band off, you want to make sure that they do some additional sanding around those seams where the glue oozed out, especially if you're going to be using a stain or leaving it natural and then applying a lacquer or a varnish on it, because the glue acts as a sealer on the wood, and if you have any kind of glue on the surface of the wood, it will repel any of that stain or sealer, and so you'll get like a little white spot, especially if you have a kit that comes with a pine or birch wood. Some of the kits will come with a mahogany, a little bit darker pine. It's not as essential, but still it will discolor in that area where the glue is. So sanding, the kids are going to fight you on it sometimes. They're like, I'm done. But you need to keep going with the sanding until it's really smooth and there's no visible glue on that surface. The next thing you're going to do is, after your body and your neck are applied, then you're going to mask off your bridge and your fretboard area so that you can start to apply the design. They could start sketching their design on the front or the back. And I tell the students that the neck is also a really lovely area to design something. Makes the whole instrument beautiful to look at, front to back, top to bottom. Sometimes I suggest they do a decorative element in the head up here where the tuners are, and on the back as well. I've even had some students do some decorative elements around the edges here, around the edges of the body, however they want to. But I do stress with the students, if you're going to be doing some of those elements, make sure they integrate with your design, not just there just because to fill every single space on there. some of the simplest designs are the best designs. So sometimes less is best on that. So those are some of the elements that I would suggest you do. We will talk more about that in the next session.